Bon matin tout le monde! I am heading to work today, and I figured while I take you through a little bit of a day in the life, I kind of want to talk about the differences between Swedish football and Canadian football. So I played professionally in Sweden this year, and then mid-season I came all the way back to Canada, I'm Canadian, to play back in my hometown for the Montréal Roses. So I played in Växjö for Växjö DFF, and I want to talk about the differences between playing styles, coaching, training styles, the things that come to mind as I take you along my day today. So let's do it. Let me show you the fit first, by the way. So I got this jacket. I'm trying to style this jacket, so this is what I did today. Yeah. Let's have a good day. Let's go. Let's go. Okay, for context, it's 2 degrees outside. I think it's super nice, but I apparently have been dressing a bit more Scandinavian. I was on the phone with Larkin and Brindis, and they said that I was dressing up more Scandinavian than they were, because they were living in Sweden, obviously, when I was calling them. But I think it's a good thing that my fashion got influenced by the Swedish culture, because I love how everyone dresses in Sweden and in Scandinavia. Also, keep in mind, I played for one team in the Damallsvenskan and one team in the Northern Super League. So one Swedish team and one Canadian team. So I'm not trying to generalize everything. I'm just trying to talk about my experience in particular. So don't come at me, please. I'm just trying to be real. Also, by the way, I think you're seeing more cars and buses here than in any other day in Växjö. I take the metro to get to work. I can make it faster, but I decide that I really like doing my walk. Like, I could be taking this bus right now, but I'd rather walk to the metro because I kind of like enjoying the scenery. I don't know. It helps me slow down a bit. All right, so the first thing I'll say is that in Sweden, it was very tactical. What surprised me about the Northern Super League, at least in the team I'm in right now, what surprised me is that it's also very tactical. But I remember my first culture shock going to Sweden was that I thought there was a lot of emphasis on tactics, which was great. And I think it helped me look at the game a bit more in a different way. Wait, sorry, look at this. If you ever go to Montreal, this is a sight that you're gonna see. Construction. Construction everywhere. So yes, in Sweden we focused on the build-up play a lot, but I would say we equally focus as much in the team I'm in right now on the build-up play. Like, I thought it'd be like a drastic change, like, oh my gosh, there's less tactics in Canada, and no, I actually feel like it's comparable. If I were to look at the both teams I was on, so for example, if I'm looking at our style of play at the Roses right now is really possession based, and I feel like with Växjö DFF, it was also really possession-based. Not anything drastic. I thought it was gonna be like a drastic change of like, okay, in Sweden we like to play out of the back, and in Montreal, like, we like to kick it, and no. It's super comparable, and I think it's cool. Also, something I miss about Sweden is being able to bike everywhere, being able to bike to practice. We don't train in Montreal, we train above the island of Montreal, so I can't just bike there. I mean, I could maybe, but yeah, I miss being able to bike everywhere, which I can in the city of Montreal, but unfortunately I can't going to practice, which is fine. And here's where I wait for the metro. I think it's coming right now, but there's actually a strike going on with the public transit system, and they're working on reduced hours, so they only work during rush hour. Anyways, let me show you. Yeah, I was thinking about more things on the metro, and something that came to mind actually, comparing Swedish football to Canadian football, is the amount of physicality. So I will say, I think the physicality and the aggressiveness was way more intense in Sweden. And I think in terms of reffing, for example, I think the refs call more fouls here sometimes because more people fall here. I think in Sweden, it was a lot of like aggressivity, but it wasn't always called as a foul. I was speaking to my other teammates, by the way, Tanya and Julia. They played for Växjö, and they were also saying how they thought it was really, really aggressive playing in Sweden. So maybe that's something we could say about Swedish football versus Canadian football so far, that maybe it's more aggressive in Sweden. So while I have you, let me explain where I'm even taking you. So yes, I'm going to work. I'm going to the facility. We get there between 9 and 9:15, 9:20 for a meeting at 9:45, and then we have activation afterwards at 10:05, 10:10, depending on when the meeting ends. So activation meaning getting ready for training, doing your little exercises, getting ready, doing whatever you need to have the best day. Some people enter the hot tub and the spa area, and me, I go roll out and I do my exercises before training. Then around 10:45 we head out. Training starts around 11:15. So from 11 to 11:15 we got some time by ourselves to do rondos, two touch, whatever. Just get the body moving. And then we train from 11, 12:30. Today we have a gym session afterwards. So we're gonna do core, and then after that we have lunch as a team. And depending, sometimes we have a meeting afterwards as well. But usually our days are done by 2:30. So we work basically from 9 to 2:30 every day, with exception of off days and games. So yeah, that's the basic schedule. Something I like about here is that the schedule is very consistent. I think I've heard some stories about how in Sweden sometimes, and this also happened in Växjö, sometimes the training schedules weren't the same. So like sometimes we train at 10 in the morning, and then the next day we train at 3. We would obviously know beforehand, but it wasn't as consistent as it is here. And I think that has to do with, again, the resources, which I think are not comparable right now. The resources in Canada right now, or at least in this club, outweigh the resources that I had in my other club. And that's just a little difference in the culture right now. Not the culture, but I guess a little difference in money allocation, right? Yeah, I'd say that. Big words. Let's switch it up and be a little fancier. Something in Sweden is that a lot of the money depended on if you had a men's team as well associated with your club. So if you had a men's team with your club, there was more money to the club. Here, obviously, it's just a women's league. There is no men's team here. It's not like there's a Montréal Roses for men. No, it's only women. So the money comes a lot from our very precious donors, our very precious sponsors and investors. And it's just so cool to be part of something so great and part of such a professional environment, because we don't have to focus on anything other than our sport, other than our job. It's not like, oh my gosh, what are we gonna do because we don't have enough money to do X, Y, and Z. And I mean like in terms of like recovery, for example. We have all the recovery tools in the world here. So I don't have to worry about spending an extra $1,000 on recovery units because they're already provided to us. So little things like that make it easy for us to focus on our sport instead of all the little hassles that might arise because of lack of money. So super grateful, and I try to remind myself every day that it is such a blessing to be able to live off of this sport. This is why I like walking in the morning. Like, what's better than having some natural sunlight and walking? I love my mornings. It's so precious. So that's why maybe I enjoy a bit more doing this instead of driving to practice, or I don't know. I get to enjoy the present moment a bit, and that's something also that I miss about Sweden. I think a lot of Swedes took their time with life. I feel like people were less in a rush, and I think in Montreal you definitely feel people needing to get somewhere. So I like taking my time. Thanks, Sweden, for that. Appreciate you guys. Okay, I'm gonna head into the facility and I will talk to you guys later. All right, let's have a good day. Let's have a good day. All right, I got home from training. It was a good day of training. I was also on the phone with Larkin. So Larkin, one of my besties from Växjö DFF, and that's something I really enjoy about the sport, is how great you could make friendships with people, because I know Larkin's literally gonna be at my wedding. So I'm so grateful that the sport brings me so many amazing people to keep in contact with. So I was thinking as well, another thing that I think differentiates from Swedish football and Canadian football is, I'd say, Canadian football is less of a game of chess. So I kind of explained this in a couple of interviews before, where I think Swedish football is like a game of chess. We set up in their half, or we trying to build up, and you kind of see like, okay, what is the opponent trying to do? They play one pass, how do we set up? They play another pass, how do we set up? So it's kind of like you see how they do and you respond to that. I think a bit in the Northern Super League, at least in Canada, there's more transitions and there's more of a game of reacting instead of responding. I feel like in Canada it's more like reacting to the play, and in Sweden it was more responding. So you will see in the Canadian League there is more direct play. I'm not saying with my team, I'm just saying in the Northern Super League there's more direct play, longer balls, but I also think we do have an emphasis on putting the ball down and playing. So I'd say in Sweden, I'd like to compare it to a chess match where it's like, okay, we set up one way, how do we do it? We set up another way, how do they do it? And how do we exploit it in a certain sense? So hopefully that makes sense. I like comparing that to that analogy because it reminds me of kind of like a mastermind. Like it's in Sweden, it was very like tactical. And I'd say in Canada it's tactical, but I feel like we're not there yet in terms of tacticality. So, but I'm just gonna relax for a little bit and take you along with me for the rest of my shenanigans throughout the day. So, let's do it. Hello, I'm taking you to the grocery store with me. So, it's Thursday right now. We leave tomorrow to play Toronto, but we play Toronto on Sunday. So, another difference is that in Sweden, let's say if we would play, I don't know, on Friday, we would bus on the Friday to get there and play. So I think in this league, depending on the time, we usually get there the day before or a couple of days before. I know obviously when we'd play Hammarby in Stockholm, we would get there the day before, of course, because we'd had to, you know, take a longer bus and stuff. But it's very common in Sweden to take a bus the same day you play a game. So yeah, we're playing Toronto on Sunday and I'm going to the grocery store right now so I can get some snacks for the bus, snacks for the ride. I'm not gonna lie, I miss the Swedish grocery stores. Boom. Wait 1 second. Let's go. And also, by the way, a lot of people were asking me why I drink coconut water. I drink coconut water because it is a complete electrolyte without the sodium. So it has potassium, magnesium, all that jazz. I'm also not a doctor, but Google. Yeah, and it's good for cramps or preventing them at least, and helps me stay hydrated. The more you know. I think a lot of people forget sometimes that they have free will. People might see me again in this grocery store, but who cares, right? I'm having more fun than them. I don't know. People gotta start dancing a bit more in grocery stores. I don't know. That's just me though. That's just me.
Merci d'avoir magasiné chez nous.
I want to show you guys my apartment, but not yet. Not yet, because it's not totally finished. The walls are empty and I don't know. You know, I have this couch, all right? And I got my bed over there and I got the kitchen over there. Anyways, but another thing on my walk back that I was thinking about, in Sweden, I thought the practices were longer, but here, I think it's shorter, more condensed, and more intense in terms of drills and in terms of, I guess, less waiting around time. Not saying that I was waiting around in Sweden. I think that here, the training sessions are shorter and more intense, while it was a bit more common in Sweden to have a bit longer training sessions and have more waiting time, for example, between drills. Nothing bad, just observation. Hello, it's me getting ready for bed. Barely finished packing. I just honestly bring my pajamas and my hygiene stuff. So nothing crazy to pack, but we leave tomorrow. I get to be at the facility at 9 a.m. Thanks for tagging along in my day today. I want to say I really love my experience here in Canada, and I also loved my experience playing football for Växjö DFF. And playing in Sweden was awesome. Playing Canada is awesome. There's just some differences. Nothing in particular that's good or bad, just differences. So it's fun that you can see the style of play change and kind of like the culture vary a bit as well. I am so grateful to be part of this club and to have been part of Växjö DFF. Also, keep in mind with this video, I'm comparing an established league, the Damallsvenskan, comparing it to a non-established league. This is the first year of the Northern Super League, so obviously there's going to be some differences in style of play and culture and all that. So yeah, just want to keep that in mind. And obviously I'm not saying that my experience is going to be the same as someone else's experience in Sweden or vice versa. I'm going off base of my experiences and also what other teammates have told me from their experiences in other Swedish clubs and Canadian clubs. So, but it's not a one size fits all. But I would say a message for my future kids is try everything. Try everything in life. Try it all. I mean, to a certain extent. Don't kill anybody. But what I mean by that is book that flight. What I mean by that is go live in a different country. What I mean by that is go to that class. What I mean by that is just dance in a grocery store. Do silly stuff. Be so whimsically unserious and live life. Again, at the end of the day, you're the main character in your movie, so make it an interesting movie. Do random things, do a bunch of side quests, love life, move to Sweden and play football there, you know? And then mid-season, move back to Canada and play football. I don't know, make life interesting, and just know that not one journey is linear. So yeah, keep that in mind going throughout life, because I think life is so fun and we gotta experience all the highs and the lows. So yeah, I want to say thank you everyone for following along, and I will see everybody in the next video. Au revoir!